We'll open with a reading from the book of Psalms. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echzar, binodesh hayar bitzeni, al mei menuchot yenahaleni, nafshi yeshovev, yancheni b'maglei tzedek lema'an shemo. Gam ki elech begetz ha'mavet lo irara ki ata imadi. Shiftecha umishantecha hema yanachamuni, taroch lefanai shochan neged sororai, deshanta v'Hashem enoshi kosira vaya. Achtov v'chesed yurdefuni kol yemei chayai, v'shabti b'veit Adonai li'orech yamim. Please join with me in Psalm 23 in the English. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We gather here this morning on a very bittersweet day. Today really is a celebration of an incredible life. Sandy built an incredible family along with her beloved Philip. But it's also a very difficult day, very hard to say goodbye. She went so quick after we found her diagnosis. But yet today we have to celebrate her for all that she is and was and will continue to be, and all that she has given to us. For today we remember with love Sandra Lawrence, a loving daughter, a loving sister, a loving mother, a loving grandmother, a loving aunt, and a loving friend. As we'll sit down to the Shabbat table tonight, on Friday night, there's a tradition that husbands and children and grandchildren say a special reading from our Bible in celebration of a mother, a wife, and a grandmother. And this is that passage which is very fitting for Sandy. Eshet chayil miyimsa v'rachot mipnei michra. What a precious find is a woman of valor. Her worth is far beyond rubies. Her husband puts his confidence in her and lacks no good thing. She is good to him, never bad, all the days of her life. She opens up her hand to the needy. She extends her hand to the poor. She is clothed with strength and splendor. She looks to the future cheerfully. She opens her mouth with wisdom. Her tongue is guided by kindness. She oversees the activities of her household. She never eats the bread of idleness. Her children come forward and bless her. Her husband praises her, saying, "Many women have done superbly, but you surpass them all." Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a God-fearing woman is much to be praised. Extol her for the fruit of her hand, and whenever people gather, her deeds will always speak her praise. Our rabbis teach that the day of our death should be more precious than the day of our birth. Now, this is something difficult for us to grasp, perhaps. Hard to understand why we should celebrate more at the time of one's passing as opposed to the times of one's entry. But the rabbis compare our lives to that of a ship. And I'm not sure if you've ever taken a cruise. I haven't, but I'll imagine that when a cruise ship leaves, there's much fanfare. You can imagine parades and music and celebration. Everyone is eager to see what's happening. And the rabbis say that when the ship leaves a harbor, that is not a time to celebrate, because no one knows what will be its plight, what seas and storms, what obstacles lay before in the path of that boat. But the rabbis say it is when a ship returns home safely after a long journey, that is the time to celebrate, for that ship has returned home, its voyage complete. And so it is, as we say today, Sandy has gone home. She has completed her voyage, avoiding any of the obstacles and the challenges and surpassing them with the strength from all of you, and all the lessons that she has given to you. Sandy, now at the age of 84, has returned home to port. She's left our world with a good name, and she is now at peace. Sandy leaves behind many in mourning, her boys, Eric and Ken, their wives, her daughters-in-law, who quickly became daughters-in-love, Sandy, who stole her son and her own name, and you, Donna. The diamonds in her crown, Sandy's grandchildren, Aaron and Zach, Jake and Ben and Monica, her brother Alan and Iris, and his children, her nephews who were like her own, Brian and Beth, Brad and Marcy, and Connor. Sandy now joins her beloved Philip, her best friend, her life partner for 48 years until his death 14 years ago. She joins her parents, Dr. Joseph and Eva Robbins, her granddaughter Tiffany, who left this world so young. They're all now reunited in heaven in their eternal home. At this point, we have two very special tributes, both of Sandy's children. First Eric, and then Ken will speak.
Both Ken and I, are educators, and we give lectures all the time, and not like this. I mean, this is going to be tough to get through. This whole situation is just very surreal. Mom even said that to me just a few days ago. It was unbelievable that this was all happening. Okay, thank you. It just happened so fast. Only 3 weeks ago, she was having a normal life. She was going out to eat. We were, planning ahead. And then just 1 week ago, we got a diagnosis. And now she's gone. I think all of us in the family are still in total shock that this happened, and this happened so quickly. The reality really hasn't totally set in yet. They often talk about the greatest generation. Well, Mom was part of the greatest group of friends. Her friend group, for the most part, have been together 70 to 80 years. In fact, Sandy, her best friend, they were friends since before they even reached the age of 1. So they've been best friends their entire life. Keeping the same circle of friends and being active continually and talking daily is just amazing, and it's a tribute to them all. I had 60 years with her, and it wasn't enough. Mom's needs were very simple. She did not need fancy jewelry, clothes, or a big house. She just needed a telephone to keep in touch with her friends. That's what all that made her happy. She's the only person in the world that I know who could talk on the phone and do needlepoint at the same time. She was everyone's go-to person with their problems, and she truly shared the joys of life and the sorrows of life with everyone. She lived through everyone and felt their joys and pain. Everyone liked Mom. Everyone considered her their best friend. She was a special person and will be missed and thought of fondly by everybody and missed by many. Mom continued to display great inner strength. How she handled the passing of our father was amazing and taught us all how to deal with the ups and downs of life. Her strength continued through her present illness. She never shed a tear at all, ever, throughout her entire ordeal. She beat cancer the first time, 45 years ago, but this time she just couldn't. The past 5 years, most of you know, Sandy and I have lived with her and taken care of her. But in that time, I've needed her more than she's needed me. She taught me more and helped me more than even during the time when I was growing up. She taught me about life. She taught me about dealing with crisis and disappointment. And she taught me about family, most important thing. I've sat and shared with her every day, and she's always had good advice. In the past year, we reversed roles, and I put her to bed as she put me to bed when I was young. I would not be where I am today if it was not for her help and unconditional love. I owe everything in the world to her and my grandfather. They made me who I am. She gave me a heart and values to pass on to my children. She has touched their lives as their continual go-to person where they discussed all of their problems. We will miss her and have a void in our heart that will never be filled. My children leaned on her, and she never gave them bad advice. I'm sorry they lost their go-to person, but she gave them a strong foundation to build upon. One of the poems which she loved, and was my grandfather's favorite poem, and I read it at his funeral, we read it at my dad's funeral, I'll read it again, was, "May the bluebird of happiness fly over your house. May all your rough roads become smooth, and may you always walk in the sunshine with your loved ones by your side." The sun is never going to be quite as bright anymore, now that Mom's not here. I want to thank my wife, Sandy, for taking care of Mom. She nursed her and made it possible for her to pass away with dignity in our home, surrounded by her loved ones. All of us were there. For the past few years, Sandy's not only been her friend, but a constant companion, chauffeur, and partner in crime. They bonded in a true mother-daughter relationship, which they both cherished. Sandy helped Mom, and Mom provided and taught her the strength to deal with the loss of Tiffany. All of us are going to miss that strength. There's a Chinese proverb that we heard of the other day that says, "A part of us remains wherever we have been." Mom touched the lives of everyone she met, and a part of her remains with everybody. Mom, we love you. We're going to miss you. In your name, we'll carry on, and our family will make you very proud. You will always continue to guide us, and we will always talk every single day.
Any plagiarism's unintentional. We did not swap notes ahead of time, so we all wrote our own words. Before I say anything about Mom, I want to express my deepest gratitude and thanks to the angel that was sent to our family, who made my Mom's last several years comfortable, and especially the last several weeks of her life. And that angel is the younger Sandy Lawrence. Sandy, on behalf of Donna, our two boys, myself, there truly are no words that can ever express the gratitude we feel for the goodness that you brought into Mom's life, your own personal sacrifices for her benefit, and for you for altering your life that Mom could stay in the house that she and Dad built and that she cherished so much. So thank you. Thank you both. If only back in the 70s they had Fitbits. When I wrestled in high school, my mom would have, due to her nervousness, would have easily gotten those 10,000 steps they tell us to get every day, every Saturday night. I was a heavyweight. I always wrestled last. And she had to wait the whole match for me to go out. And she never sat. She never sat once. And you know, some of my BFFs from high school are here. And our gym at Brush, you walk in ground level and then you walk down. And she never once ever walked down. She'd stay on that top level, and I would see her as I'm sitting on the bench, and she would be up pacing and pacing. And she was never nervous if I would win or if the team would win. That never had any part of it. It was just that she didn't want me or any of my teammates to get hurt. That was her only concern, that we were going to get hurt. And that's Mom. First and foremost, she was always thinking about others. It was never about herself. In reflecting on this, it brought me back to my earliest memories. And my earliest memories actually are going with her to Mayland Lanes for the Wednesday afternoon women's Ort bowling. She'd order me a burger, fries, and a Coke, and I would sit there in amazement that they had these overhead projectors that would project the score up, and you know, the sounds. And in those days, all the ladies wore skirts and very pleated white blouses to bowl in, and it was good memories. And then on the drive to and fro, I would, of course, even though only being 4, sit in the front seat in those days. And seat belts, she didn't need them. You had Mom's arm. So, so if any of those bowling mates are here, I would love to hear more to fill in some of what 51 years later you know, are some gaps. But that's my early and fond memories. So anyway, as I said, it was an Ort Bowling League, and she represented her beloved Olivewood chapter, from which I know there's several people in attendance today. I already saw several of them. And she dedicated her life to 2 things, family and Ort. She tirelessly worked to raise funds for Ort. She would hold and cook for fundraisers, and we were used as the experimental places for dinners to see if this was good enough to serve to the fundraiser. And actually, I'm going to go a little impromptu here. So one year they were having a fundraiser, and I know some of you are going to remember this story, that they decided they were going to serve chicken. And my mom, endlessly, every night for weeks and weeks and weeks, we had chicken dinner every night for weeks because she had to find that perfect recipe to serve her friends. And this was my senior year of high school, and lo and behold, in the process of all this, I ended up with the chicken pox. So at the benefit, they gave my mom the Big Bird Award for our family for the tireless consumption of chicken that we did, and I got special commendation that I went so far as to actually come down with the chicken pox. So back to the script. I would spend time with her and Eric as well. We would make multiple trips to people's houses to pick up what they called rummage, the discarded personal goods of clothes and items that would be sold in the Ort's consignment shop, the resale shop, to raise funds for this organization. Later, after that, this morphed into house and estate sales, where she would go into other people's houses and price their goods, and all the money went to charity, never any remuneration, and just a great deal of times and days and evenings on end. And a lot of the Ort ladies, as she called them, are and still became the lifelong friends and the support group you hear today. Her dedication to others was just incredibly impressive. She gave a huge amount of her time to other people that she would never, ever, ever have a chance of meeting. Just what Ort does, for those of you who don't know, they build schools in underdeveloped lands, and they would help train people so they would have a skill to take and get jobs, and that was the whole point of the organization. And they've raised a big, very big Jewish organization that's done a lot of good in the world. So again, it was just all about others. My grandma passed at a rather young age, and my mom became the family matriarch. And so now one of those things that is really the awesomeness of growing up, the large family dinners was now at our house. I mean, you get to pig out and party with your cousins. What could be better, right? So anyway, the great thing about being Jewish, for those of my friends that aren't Jewish, is like every other minute there's a Jewish holiday. So you had a lot of chances to party, and then throw in our American holidays, you know, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, New Year's, boom, it was nonstop party time. So, and Mom always went out of her way to invite people that did not have a place to go, so we would have a lot of guests at these dinners. She and my dad loved to host these dinners, and she carried this on after my father passed, and Eric and I still love to host these big dinners, and you know, we fight over whose is who, and you know, who's going to get Thanksgiving and who's going to get. And actually, about that, again, going off the script, I was also reminded about giving to others that my cousin Brad reminded me that for a period of time he actually lived at my mom's house, as did my cousin Wendy, who's not here today. She's out of town, and also she took in one of my college roommates. It was just, our house was always open. 60 years, the house was never locked. Nobody ever knocked. It was just open door policy. Just walk on in and just say hello. Growing up, we had the first VCR, and we were the first ones to have cable. And our house became the gathering place. When I was in what we called in those days junior high, we had numerous poker games at our house. And then when we were old enough to go out when we were in high school, our house became the regrouping spot because we had the Showtime and HBO and the VCR. So we, between 12 and 1, me and my friends, and many of them are here today, we'd go back to the house, throw some frozen pizzas in the oven, crash on the couch or the floor, and then on Saturday or Sunday morning, depending on what night it was, my parents would wake up and have, you know, half a dozen teenage boys sleeping on the floor, the couches, or wherever, and never bothered them in the slightest. They were happy to have it. They never complained about the noise we made the night before, the mess we left in the kitchen, and all they would do is take breakfast orders. So, and as I said, many of these gentlemen are here today, and that lifelong friendship, as Erica spoke about so beautifully, was the core of who my mom was. And, well, you now know that my mom maintained a group of friends since grade school. They went to grade school together, high school, college, and talked on the phone daily for close to 70 years. They meet for frequent lunches, dinners, and have always been there to support each other. These are my group of aunts growing up, and I thought you ladies would go on forever, but sadly my mom's the first to leave the group, and just leave her an open seat at that lunch table, okay? And then there was the phone. The phone. She'd receive calls for hours every day. When I was young, I didn't understand it. She was just always on that phone. Now I realize why people sought her out. She was a great listener. She would listen to problems. She was there for friends, genuinely there for them, and had a time for everyone. She never told people this wasn't a good time to call. She never said she had to go. She never said, I'm busy, ever. She gave her time freely. The other day, my niece Erin, I think, summed it up best when she said, my mom was a best friend to a lot of people. Along with being a great listener and understander of human emotions and being totally selfless, she was always patient. This is one of her great traits when it came to being a grandma to Jake and Ben. Erin had a young grandma. Zach had a still active grandma. Monica and Tiffany had a starting to age grandma. But Jake and Ben had a grandma with very limited physical mobility. She would endlessly play board games and card games and help with puzzles. Cooking and baking projects in our house would be set up at the kitchen table because she couldn't stand at the counter. And she would help Jake and Ben and Nana would all work together. She would catalog shop for the perfect gifts and many times came over with presents, art supplies, baking supplies, funny aprons, kitchen gadgets, and more. And she found the gift that would define the inside playtime of my kids' childhood, the Magnetile. The boys spent more time building with their Magnetiles than all the other toys in our playroom combined. As the boys got older, they planned barbecue dinner menus for our Sunday dinners, and we'd sit at the table, unrushed and relaxed, talking about school, friends, politics, and life. Mom would not let her limited mobility stop her from doing the usual grandma stuff, like attending Ben's baseball games, where the parking lot was never close to the field and there always seemed to be a hill in between, or Jake's rock concerts, where there was always bad access to get in and bad chairs once you got there. My mom's friends in attendance know she did not email. And with all the praise deservedly being heaped on her today, I do have to share one story. Because there was possibly, I'm going to hold it out, that there may have been one piece of bad advice she gave in her life. And my office staff who is in attendance do know this one, because I still complain about it every day, I think. So as I was struggling with 7th grade typing, the usual response in our house was, go see the teacher for extra help, try harder, I'll help you, I'll get you a tutor. But that was not the response, as I was struggling with typing, because Mom never obviously saw computerization and emails coming, and she told me to, don't worry about it, you'll always have someone to type for you from your dictation. So, solid 70s advice. Mom was a prolific needle pointer, and starting with my bar mitzvah in 1975, don't do the math, please don't do the math. So from 1975, she made a tallis bag for every, well, starting with me, sorry about that, every grandchild, every niece, every nephew, friends, grandchildren, all got these tallis bags. And the ritual was brought full circle. The final 2 she made was for Jake and Ben, who had their bar mitzvah in April. And she saw ahead that her eyes were failing. She had, for those of you that know her, her hands were getting quite arthritic. So years ahead of time, it was pretty much as soon as, hey Mom, it's a boy, she started working on these tallis bags 13 years ago. And those were the last 2. So the boy's bar mitzvah was a huge moment for her, and she was determined that her physical limitations were not going to stop her from partaking in the service, and she did, and she took her role beautifully and got up there and was a huge part, and we were all overjoyed to have her do that. We have a lot of fond memories of Mom with her at her kitchen table, cooking, baking, playing games, and just talking and laughing. Clearly, there's a void that is never going to be filled. But we're always going to carry her love with us, her commitment to family, to close friends, her kind and generous spirit, her love of cooking and reading, and of just talking and listening. Our extended family has big shoes to fill for one another, as we learned this week just how much her brother, her children, grandchildren, all relied on her for support. She was the ears of compassion and the voice of reason for life's most challenging moments. Numerous relatives and some of my friends have confided me in the last couple of days that she had been their counsel through rough patches in their lives. It didn't matter if she was Sandy, Aunt Sandy, Mrs. Lawrence, Nana, or most especially, Mom.
Beautiful tributes. The rabbis say the words that come from the heart enter our heart. And you truly brought Mom to life, everything that we knew already, and so much more. Kind-hearted, consistent, calm, selfless. Sandy was what we call a mensch. She spoke her mind when necessary, always had wise things to say. So smart, she remembered everything. She was the family historian. Her favorite must-watch TV show was Jeopardy! Every night, and she was good at it. An avid Cleveland sports fan, she was always so positive and optimistic about life, except when it came to Cleveland sports. She was a true Cleveland sports fan, a pessimist. Whether it was football or baseball or basketball, nothing could interrupt the Cleveland game except Jeopardy! Every night. A friend to everyone, she put everyone first before her. She loved her jokes, most especially that library of corny jokes that she had. And when we met yesterday as a family, everyone agreed Sandy was the strength of the family, the matriarch with her quiet strength. She taught all of you that family was number one and how important it was to be together. Born and raised here in University Heights, graduating from Heights High, her brother Alan vividly remembers those summers growing up when the family would pack up the day after school ended, pile into your dad's old station wagon without air conditioning or seat belts, and drive out, way out, to Mentor on the Lake and spend the summer there at the summer home. Just you and Sandy playing all day, shoeless, picking berries, enjoying the lake. This went on, Alan told me, until Sandy got interested in boys in high school. And somehow then the family stayed in town. After high school, she went on to Ohio State to study to be a speech and hearing specialist. Her parents were so protective of her, overprotective, you could say. They didn't want her to leave town, especially to go away for college, but somehow she was able to sweet-talk Mom into talking to her dad to let her go. That summer before she left for college, she was at a wedding and saw Philip from afar. You told me she eyed him, and they talked that night. Philip was a few years older. He had just come back from the service in Korea. And when Sandy got to campus in Columbus for the beginning of her freshman year, she was walking around the Oval, and they saw each other. And Philip came over, and he tried to compliment her. It wasn't exactly the best pickup line. Apparently, Sandy was standing next to a ugly building on Ohio State's campus, and he said something like, "Well, you make that building look nice." But it worked. We say the rest is history. And they were married on August 14th, 1955. And throughout their 48 years of marriage together, they were so in love. The way they held hands, the way they took care of each other. Photos from their travels show the love in their eyes and their smiles. They were the best pair. They were made for each other. They loved having fun together. They were all in, especially at all the family celebrations. They dress in wigs and funny hats, dancing with Slider at Aaron's bat mitzvah, wearing their beach clothes for Ken's wedding. They just loved being together and loved being with you. They loved going to the theater together. And when Philip left this world, there was no replacing him. Sandy terribly missed him, always talked about how much she loved him. And yet, as you said, she was strong and carried on, able to focus on the future, always keeping Grandpa part of the family stories, especially for little Ben who never met him. She didn't give up those theater tickets either that she loved to go with Philip. And after he passed, she would reserve a special trip to the theater with each member of the family to a different show to be with you and to share with you. An incredible mom, as you already heard from our tributes, so proud of her boys, both in their careers and professions, and most importantly, in their families. An incredible Nana, Grandma Sandy was so close with each of you, such a big part of your lives. Aaron and Zach, their oldest grandchildren, remember going out on the boat with Grandpa and Nana, and that one time there was a crash and a big hole in the boat. And Aaron, you asked Nana if she could swim, and it didn't look so positive there. The second any of the grandkids got home from school each day, they always called Nana to tell her about their day. Though she was always not well or mobile, as you heard, it never stopped her from being so actively engaged in parts of your life. Connor was like another of her grandchildren, always being part of Nana's life and love. Tiffany and Monica were so special. Her girls, she loved you so much. I know how brokenhearted she was when Tiffany left. Monica, you told me about loving talking to Nana, how you'd have the best conversations. Zach, you told me that the kitchen table was the place where you all spent the most time talking for hours and hours and hours. Aaron, you told me that your grandma was the strongest person that you knew. She was a person that you could share with your tears, your feelings, your emotions. She always made it better. And Jake and Ben, you loved those Sunday nights together. There was nothing better than it. Sandy never asked anything from you, except don't mess with her Saturday afternoon hair and nail appointments. She loved tea. If she lifted her mug, it was your job to refill it for her with a fruity herbal blend. Daughter-in-law Sandy would always make sure it was filled up, and at Ken and Donna's house, she had a special mug reserved for her tea. She never wanted anything, but was always looking to give to you. As Eric said, it was usually bizarre kitchen gadgets, which she bought in multiples so that everyone in the family could have. Watermelon knives, brownie pans where every piece of a brownie gets a corner, that hamburger patty press, you know them, don't you? She got it for you, hoping these gadgets would just make your lives a little bit easier. An incredible cook, she was known for her lemon jello, her noodle kugel, her shrimp mousse. Sorry, I don't know if I was allowed to say that. It was once in a while replaced as salmon and a salmon mousse. She shared her recipes, placing them in the cookbooks all around town. And as her mobility declined, as you heard, she did less cooking and more delegating and supervising. She'd sit at the table, tell you what to do, share her recipes with you, but you told me you could never get that lemon jello as good as she did. You called it Nana good. Never get the right consistency. She'd always make a lot of food. Connor got his own lemon jello. And if the meal didn't have lemon jello, maybe it was pink jello or some other color, it was not a happy day in the Lawrence household. She loved preparing for the holidays, as you said. Her gourmet club, once a month cooking foods from all around the world. She'd lay out cookbooks and planning sheets all over the table and get to figure out what was happening. But as you heard, the greatest gift that you gave to her was keeping her in her house. Eric and Sandy moving into the family home, and all of you being there to support her, to make sure she was okay. And she did the same for you. It was a mutual relationship you all had. The mom lived vicariously through you and with you, because you included her in everything. When you vacationed, guess who came? Mom came. Disney, Mexico, cruises, Zach pushing her up and down the Mexican ruins, steering her scooter through the small passageways of the cruise ship, sharing rooms with her. You made Mom the priority. Your lives revolved around her. She'd wait up for you if you were out late at a Cavs game or working. You'd eat every meal with her and always talk. She'd listen and give you advice. And to be in that family house, you replanted Dad's garden, and Mom was so proud to have everyone back at that house, filling it all with the grandchildren and the family. Sandy was such a significant part of your lives, even in work. She worked for and with her brother Alan and then her son Eric. For Eric, Mom was your first receptionist. You told me she was excellent. Great on the phone, not a surprise. And everyone loved her. And now that you're working with a second generation of patients, right? The children of your first patients are now your patients, right? Everyone always asks about Mom. How's she doing? Checking in on her. An avid reader, Sandy would read a massive book each week. And when she got to the final chapters towards the end of the week, you couldn't interrupt her. She couldn't wait to finish. As you heard, Sandy's decline was fast, and yet she stayed strong and positive, always content, extremely well cared for, with respect and love in her own home, encircled by all of you. She was the matriarch, the mom, the nana. You ensured that she was always cared for with compassion and love. We can surely say that Sandy is now at peace. She is suffering no more. May her name always be for a blessing. And we say, Amen. We'll rise now for the memorial prayer. Elamare rachamim, shochen b'amromim, amatzei menucha nachona, tachat kanfei hashechina, b'malot kedoshim utorim, kezorak yamasirim, et nishmat tzorotayvo, but Yosef Hirsch v'chava brocha, shachal olama, b'gan eden temenuchata, anna barachamim, hastire b'setek nevakali olamim, Sorbet Sorkaimet Nishmata Ronayo Nachalata Vetanok Beshalom Ishkava Venamar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Sandra Lawrence, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May she merit the reward for living a life of kindness and love. May she rest in peace. And we say, Amen. Please be seated. Interment will follow the service at Chesterland Memorial Park Cemetery, and then family will receive friends at the home, 1120 Haverston Road in Lyndhurst, immediately following the burial today until 7:30 p.m., Saturday night from 7:30 to 9:30, and Sunday 1 to 5 and 7 to 9, and we'll be holding a minion service on Sunday at 7 p.m. at night. Contributions are suggested to Women's American Orgs.